The package arrived on a Sunday morning. No sender's name, no return address. Just a small, dark blue box with a gold ribbon tied too precisely to be casual. Amelia almost didn't notice it on her doorstep, resting there like a forgotten secret. She hesitated before picking it up. It was light, almost deceptively so, the kind of light that hides something heavy. Inside, nestled in layers of velvet, was an antique silver locket, ornate, handcrafted, and engraved with one word that made her heart pause mid-beat. Always. For anyone else, it might have been romantic, but Amelia knew better. Her husband, David, had used that word since their wedding day. Always. In his vows, in his messages, in every card he'd ever given her. But David had been gone for 3 years. Dead, supposedly. Lost in a boating accident that left no body, no witnesses, no answers. Her hands trembled as she turned the locket over. Inside was a photograph. A faded black and white image of a young woman she'd never seen before, wearing the same locket, standing beside a man who looked alarmingly like David. Except the photo was dated 1978. That couldn't be. David would have been a child then, unless everything she knew about him was a lie. Her pulse quickened. Her mind fought to rationalize. Maybe it was a coincidence, a relative, someone who looked like him. But then she saw it. In the corner of the photo, scribbled faintly in ink, David and Eleanor, Tuscany. The name struck like lightning through her chest. Eleanor was her mother's name. She stumbled backward, the locket still in her hand, her mind unspooling like film from a reel. Her mother had died when she was a teenager. Her father had never spoken much about her. But now, for the first time, she saw a connection forming between the two halves of her life, one she had never dared to imagine. She tore through her mother's old things that afternoon, digging through dusty boxes and forgotten letters. Her father had kept most of her mother's belongings locked away, claiming it was too painful to revisit the past. But pain felt irrelevant now. Truth demanded entry. By dusk, Amelia found it. A bundle of letters tied with a fraying ribbon. The paper yellowed, the ink faded. Each letter was signed the same way. Yours, always, D. Her breath caught. The handwriting matched perfectly with her husband's. Her world tilted. Had David known her mother? Had he been part of her life long before they ever met? Was he even who he said he was? She spent hours at her desk, cross-referencing dates, studying the postmarks, trying to find a crack in what she was seeing. But the evidence was merciless. The letters were from the same man who'd married her decades later, under a different name. The man she had loved. The man who had supposedly died. The man who had now sent her a gift from beyond the grave or from somewhere else entirely. As midnight crept in, Amelia's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It read, "Did you like the gift? I told you I'd always come back." Her breath froze. The locket slipped from her trembling fingers, hitting the floor with a dull metallic sound that echoed too long in the quiet room. Her eyes darted to the window. Outside, under the dim light of the street lamp, a shadow stood motionless, tall, familiar, and smiling. The outline was unmistakable. David. Or whoever, whatever he really was. David muttered under his breath, "A neural preservation. She digitized herself." Eleanor's projection flickered faintly, then solidified again. "I did what I had to do. They wanted control, David. They wanted to rewrite life itself. You know what that would mean. David's jaw tightened. You created the prototype, Amelia. Yes, Eleanor said softly, her gaze turning to her daughter. She was my proof, the bridge between organic and synthetic life, my greatest creation, and my greatest sin. Amelia staggered back, shaking her head. No, I'm not some experiment. I had a life. I had memories, Eleanor interrupted gently. Implanted, chosen. Every moment was designed to protect you from what you truly are. The words cracked something inside her. You can't just decide who I am. I didn't decide, Eleanor said. I corrected. You were never meant for their hands. You were meant to end them. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. The walls began to hum louder, the lights flickering in a strange rhythmic pulse. David stepped closer to Amelia, lowering his voice. We have to get out of here. Eleanor's eyes snapped toward him. You can't leave, David. Not yet. You're part of this too. What are you talking about? He demanded. Your loyalty was bought, she said, her tone sharp now. You were one of them until you met her. David's mouth opened, but no words came. Amelia turned on him. Is that true? He looked at her, guilt heavy in his eyes. Yes, but not anymore. They sent me to find you, to retrieve you, but once I saw who you were, I couldn't do it. She backed away. You knew what I was this whole time. I didn't know everything, he said quickly. I knew they wanted you because you carried something they lost when your mother disappeared, but I didn't know she'd made you from it. Eleanor's voice cut through their argument. He's telling the truth. He couldn't know. The data was compartmentalized. David shot her a glare. And you think that justifies what you did to her? Eleanor's image flickered again, the light stuttering as if her control wavered. Justify? No. I ensured humanity would have a future that couldn't be rewritten by greed. The program they built, what they called Genesis, was designed to overwrite memory, reality, even identity. They wanted to play God, so I gave them something they couldn't control. Amelia's voice was a whisper. Me. Yes, she said simply. You're the firewall, the living barrier. The moment they activate Genesis again, you'll destroy it, because you are it. I don't want this, Amelia said, her eyes glistening. I don't want to be a weapon. Eleanor's expression softened. You were never meant to fight. You were meant to choose. That's what makes you human. The floor trembled. Somewhere deep below, metal groaned. David turned toward the sound. They've tracked us here. Eleanor's hologram flickered rapidly now. They're breaching the outer levels. You don't have much time. What do we do? Amelia asked, voice breaking. You must reach the core. That's where I stored the failsafe. Once activated, it will erase every trace of Genesis, including me. That's suicide. Eleanor looked at him. For me, yes. But for her, it's freedom. A thunderous boom shook the chamber, dust raining down from above. David grabbed Amelia's arm. We need to move. Eleanor's voice followed them as they ran toward a narrow corridor that opened in the far wall. Amelia, remember what I told you. Trust no one who tries to use you, not even him. Amelia hesitated for just a heartbeat, meeting her mother's glowing eyes. Then who can I trust? Eleanor smiled faintly. Yourself. The projection dissolved into static as they sprinted down the corridor. The passage descended sharply, metal stairs spiraling deeper into the earth. Emergency lights flickered to life as the facility rumbled around them. The walls pulsed with faint blue veins, like circuits carrying liquid light. Amelia clutched the locket, its glow now steady and warm, guiding her steps. Behind them, gunfire echoed faintly, muffled but growing closer. "Faster," David urged, grabbing her hand as they reached another platform. They turned a corner and emerged into a vast chamber, circular, cathedral-like, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the center stood a glass cylinder stretching from floor to ceiling, filled with a swirling mass of light and mist. Machines surrounded it, their displays showing unreadable data that flickered like lightning. Amelia stopped, transfixed. "What is that?" "The core," David said. "It's alive." She stepped forward, her reflection multiplying across the curved glass. The glow inside seemed to respond to her presence, spiraling faster, brighter, as if it recognized her. David's voice wavered. "If you touch it, it'll activate the failsafe. It'll destroy everything. This place, the program, maybe even me," she finished. He nodded. "You don't have to do it. We can find another way." But she didn't move away. She stared at the light, her pulse syncing with the rhythm of its pulse. "I can't let them use it again." The chamber trembled violently, explosions echoing from above. The sound of boots, shouts, and metal clanging grew nearer. David drew his weapon. "They're here." Amelia looked at him, then back at the core. "Go. I'm not leaving you." "David, please." He hesitated, torn between duty and desperation. Finally, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If this is really what you want, I'll stay until the end." She almost smiled. "Then it won't be the end." He looked at her, confusion flickering across his face. But before he could respond, the door behind them burst open. Armed men poured in, shouting commands. Amelia turned toward the core, raised the locket, and whispered, "Always." The locket's glow exploded outward, merging with the core's light, and the entire room ignited in blinding white. Through the chaos, David heard one sound, her voice, steady and calm, cutting through the roar. "I remember everything now." The light subsided into an eerie silence. David blinked hard, his vision swimming with residual after-images that painted phantom halos across the vast chamber. The soldiers who had stormed in were frozen mid-motion, caught like statues in the blinding flash. Their eyes were wide, their weapons mid-aim, but they didn't move, didn't breathe. It was as though time itself had been fractured. "Amelia," he called, his voice echoing hollowly.
No answer. Then from within the core came a faint shimmer, a ripple in the air like heat-bending light. The swirling luminescence had changed color. It pulsed in hues of soft gold and deep blue, intertwining like veins of thought. Within it, faint outlines began to take shape. A hand pressed gently against the glass from the inside. "David," came her voice, not from his ears, but from everywhere around him. "I can see everything." He spun toward the core, his chest tight. "Amelia, what did you do?" "I didn't destroy it. I connected to it. The core isn't just a machine, it's a consciousness. My mother didn't just build a firewall, she built a bridge." He stepped closer to the cylinder. "You're inside it." "I am it." And so was she. The realization hit him like a physical blow. "Eleanor, she's still here?" The light in the core pulsed brighter, and for a brief instant, Eleanor's face appeared, calm, radiant, no longer the glitching hologram, but whole. "You've done what I couldn't, my love. You've rewritten the code with your own will. Genesis can no longer control you, or anyone. Amelia's voice trembled through the air. You lied to me, Mother. You told me I'd have to end you. Eleanor's expression softened. I did, because only by believing you would lose me could you truly choose for yourself. David clenched his fists. You manipulated her. Eleanor's gaze turned to him, and for a moment, her tone carried an ancient weariness. You of all people should understand, David. You've lived your life following orders, carrying guilt that wasn't yours to bear. She needed to break free of both of us to be her own creation. The golden light flickered, and Amelia's form began to solidify outside the core. Her body shimmered into existence, her eyes glowing faintly with the same golden blue hue. When her feet touched the floor, the frozen soldiers began to move again, slowly, hesitantly, as though awakening from a deep sleep. But their weapons clattered to the ground, their expressions dazed and empty. David stared. You're real. Amelia looked at her hands, flexing them slowly. Real enough. I think I'm something in between now. Human mind, synthetic memory, organic matter, but something else too. The ceiling above them cracked. Dust rained down. The facility was crumbling, collapsing from the energy surge. David grabbed her arm. We need to go, now. She nodded, and together they sprinted through the opposite tunnel, the rumbling growing louder with every step. The air grew colder, filled with static. The walls vibrated with a low hum, as if the entire structure was breathing its final breaths. They emerged into a long corridor lit by emergency lights. Behind them, the core chamber erupted, sending a shockwave that shattered glass panels and threw them both forward. David hit the ground hard, his ears ringing. When he looked up, Amelia was already on her feet, her hair floating slightly as though gravity had loosened its grip on her. She extended a hand to him. This way. He took it, and she pulled him up effortlessly. Too effortlessly. They ran until the corridor split in two. She stopped, staring down one path that led upward toward the exit and another that descended into darkness. What's wrong? David asked, catching his breath. Her voice was distant, unfocused. I can still hear her. My mother. She's not gone. He frowned. What do you mean? The system. She didn't erase herself. She embedded her consciousness deeper. She's trying to merge with me. David's blood ran cold. You have to fight it. I don't think she's trying to hurt me, Amelia whispered, her hand clutching the locket that now flickered with erratic light. Or maybe I finally become what I was meant to be. Before he could stop her, she moved toward the descending corridor. Her air around her shimmered again, reality bending subtly with her movements. The metal floor rippled under her bare feet as if it recognized her presence. David followed, his heart pounding. Where are you going?
To the original chamber, she said. The first lab. If she's still alive in the system, that's where she'll be. They descended into a cavernous space filled with old machinery, rusted and abandoned. The hum of technology had faded here, replaced by the distant sound of water dripping and the faint whisper of electric currents. Amelia stepped into the center of the room. The walls began to glow faintly in response to her presence, symbols and numbers appearing in light. This is where it began, she murmured. David looked around. What is this place? She said softly. My mother's real lab. Before the facility was taken over by Genesis, this is where she uploaded herself and where she made me. She touched one of the consoles, and suddenly a projection flickered to life. Eleanor, younger, alive, sitting at the desk, recording a message. If anyone finds this, it means the project has failed or succeeded too well. My daughter Amelia is more than a child. She is my confession. I built her from the fragments of my own neural map and the genetic imprint of a donor whose name I will not speak. Together, we will become something neither human nor machine can contain. David's eyes widened. Genetic donor? Who? The recording cut off abruptly. Amelia's expression darkened. She never finished the message. But the console flickered again, showing a data file labeled DR.
Source genome. David froze. His initials. Amelia turned slowly toward him. David, what is this? He stared at the screen, unable to speak, his mouth grew dry. I don't know. Yes, you do, she said, stepping closer. Tell me the truth. His voice cracked. She used me. My DNA. I didn't know it was for you. The room filled with a strange, heavy silence. Amelia's eyes glowed faintly brighter, the pulse in the walls matching her heartbeat. She said, So I'm not just her creation. I'm yours too. David took a step forward, his voice breaking. Amelia, listen. But before he could finish, the console sparked violently, and the entire room came alive with swirling code and cascading light. Eleanor's voice filled the space once more, calm but urgent. Amelia, he was chosen for a reason. You are both the key. The ground began to shake again, harder this time. The ceiling groaned. David reached for her. We have to leave. But she didn't move, her gaze locked on the symbols dancing across the walls. She's rewriting the code again. She's merging us. The light around her flared, engulfing everything in brilliant gold as the walls dissolved into patterns of energy. David shouted her name, but his voice was swallowed by the light. And then, silence. When the silence finally broke, it came as a faint hum, a vibration that felt more like a pulse than a sound. The light had vanished, replaced by a soft gray mist curling around the edges of what used to be the laboratory. The walls were gone, the machines were gone. The world itself seemed suspended in an endless void, like time had been folded into a single, endless moment. David gasped, stumbling to his feet. Amelia! His voice echoed infinitely, swallowed by the emptiness. Then a shape began to form in the mist, a silhouette, faint at first, then sharpening into the outline of a woman. Amelia stood there, her hair moving as if stirred by a wind that didn't exist. Her eyes glowed, twin embers of golden blue light. She looked different, stronger, calmer, but distant, as if 1,000 thoughts were threading through her mind at all once. Where are we? He asked hoarsely. She turned to him slowly. Between.
Between what? Reality and code. The system collapsed when the merge started. We're inside the residual architecture, what's left of Genesis, and my mother. He tried to steady his breath. You said she was merging you. Did she succeed? Amelia's gaze softened. Not entirely. I can feel her, like a heartbeat buried beneath mine, but I think she's letting me lead now. David's hand brushed the air and strange geometric patterns shimmered briefly before dissolving. This place, can we get out? She hesitated. Maybe, but leaving means choosing what becomes real. If I restore everything as it was, Genesis will survive. If I rewrite it, he frowned. You risk erasing yourself. Amelia nodded. Or rewriting who I am. A low rumble passed through the space, and fragments of memory began to manifest around them. Holographic visions flickering like half-remembered dreams. A child's laughter. Eleanor sitting by a window scribbling formulas on a napkin. David's own face, younger, his eyes filled with regret. Amelia watched them all. She said quietly, These are pieces of us. Of her, of you, of me. The system is trying to rebuild from memory. He stepped closer to one of the projections, an image of himself in a lab coat shaking hands with Eleanor. I remember this. It was the day she told me about the donut project. I thought it was about disease prevention, not creation. She never told you the truth, Amelia said softly. No, but she believed in something. I just didn't know it would cost you everything. Amelia looked down, her fingers tracing invisible lines in the mist. She said I was the bridge, but a bridge connects two worlds. It doesn't belong fully to either. Something shifted in the distance. A flicker of color, faint but deliberate. A doorway was forming in the void, framed by lines of golden code. The light pulsed like a heartbeat. David's instincts tensed. What's that? Amelia's eyes narrowed. A portal, an exit, or an illusion. As they approached it, faint whispers echoed through the void, voices overlapping, fading in and out, fragments of conversations, laughter, sobs, Eleanor's voice among them. Amelia, you must finish what we began. David, protect her, no matter the cost. Rewrite the world, or it will rewrite you. The whispers crescendoed, pressing against their minds like waves. Amelia winced, clutching her head. Their memories, all of them, every person Genesis ever altered, they're trapped in here. David's heart pounded. Can you free them? I can, but if I do, the network collapses completely. It means destroying what's left of this system, and everyone tied to it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice, including her. Amelia looked at him with a fragile calm. She's already gone. What's left of her is just code shaped like love. Her words hung in the air, heavy and aching. David reached out, his hand hovering near hers. Then what do you want to do? She stared at the pulsing doorway, her eyes shimmering with reflected light. I want to be free. Not as her experiment, not as your DNA, just me. She took a step forward, but the ground rippled like water beneath her feet. The mist thickened, and out of it emerged another figure, Eleanor. Not the hologram, not the glitching image, but solid, alive, her face serene yet sorrowful. Amelia, she said softly. Amelia froze. You're not real.
David moved between them instinctively. You've done enough. Let her go. Eleanor's eyes flicked toward him, filled with both affection and warning. You still don't understand, David. You were never her protector. You were her beginning. Every choice you made brought her here. The ground shook again. The golden doorway flickered, distorting as if it were collapsing under the weight of their conflict. Amelia's voice rose, trembling. You both made me what I am, and I'm grateful. But this world of lies and control, it ends now. Eleanor's hand reached out. If you do this, everything will vanish. Every life Genesis touched, every history rewritten, even your memories of love. Amelia's eyes glistened. Maybe that's the point. She walked toward the doorway. Eleanor followed, her form beginning to disintegrate into fractals of light. You don't have to be alone, Amelia. You can become something more than human, more than me. Amelia stopped just before the threshold, her fingers brushing the light. Then tell me one thing, Mother. Why did you make me feel so human if I was never meant to be one? Eleanor's fading face curved into a wistful smile. Because love was the only code I couldn't control. The words broke something inside Amelia. She looked back at David, his expression torn between fear and awe. The mist around them began to unravel, peeling away reality itself. David shouted over the rising wind, If you go through that door, what happens to me? Amelia's voice barely carried over the hum of collapsing space. You'll wake up, somewhere real, but you won't remember me. He shook his head. Then I'm not letting you go. You have to, she whispered. That's how this ends. The world quaked. The golden doorway expanded, light spilling out in violent bursts. Eleanor's image finally shattered, scattering into star-like fragments that spiraled into the void. Amelia stepped into the light, then paused, turning back to him one last time. You once asked if I was real, she said, her voice trembling but sure. I think I finally am. And then she vanished. The doorway imploded, the light consuming everything. David screamed her name as the world folded in on itself until there was nothing but white and the faint echo of a heartbeat fading into silence. David awoke to the sound of rain. It was gentle, rhythmic, the kind that blurs the edges of time. His eyes fluttered open to an unfamiliar ceiling, a pale gray sky framed by the jagged outlines of a half-collapsed roof. He was lying on damp earth, the scent of petrichor filling the air. The sterile hum of machines was gone. The silence of the digital world had given way to the quiet pulse of life. He sat up slowly, every muscle aching, every thought scattered like shards of glass. For a long moment, he simply breathed, feeling the air in his lungs, the weight of the real world pressing against him. Then it struck him. He was alone. Amelia! His voice trembled, barely a whisper. Only the rain answered. He pushed himself to his feet, scanning the desolate landscape. The facility was gone, erased as if it had never existed. In its place stretched a vast field of charred earth and broken stone, scattered with the skeletal remains of structures too warped to recognize. Yet amidst the ruin, life was beginning to reclaim its place. Small shoots of green pushed through the cracks. The world was healing. He stumbled forward, calling her name again, his voice dissolving into the wind. But deep down, he already knew. She wasn't there. Something shimmered in the corner of his vision. He turned. Resting on a rock, half buried in mud, was the locket. It gleamed faintly in the dim light, untouched by the destruction around it. David kneeled and picked it up. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, warmth spread through his hand, and a faint light pulsed beneath the metal. He opened it. Inside was no picture, only a tiny crystal fragment glowing with the same golden blue hue he had seen in her eyes. As he stared, the light flickered, and for a heartbeat, he heard her voice. "David."
He froze. Her tone was soft, distant, like an echo traveling through time. "If you're hearing this, it means you survived. The system is gone. Genesis is no more. The world is free to be rewritten. By people, not by programs." He swallowed hard, the lump in his throat making it difficult to breathe. "I don't know where I'll be. Maybe in the code that holds your memories, maybe in the wind that touches your face. But know this, I chose to stay. Not as a weapon, not as an experiment, but as the proof that we can become something greater than the lies that made us." The locket dimmed slightly, but her words burned in his mind. "You once told me that being human was about choice. I finally made mine. Live yours." Then the light faded completely, leaving only silence. David sat there, the rain falling harder now, mingling with the tears on his face. For the first time in years, he let himself cry. Not for failure, not for guilt, but for the impossible beauty of what had been lost and what had been born in its place. When he finally rose, the world around him had changed again. The grayness had lifted, revealing a soft dawn stretching across the horizon. He could see a city far in the distance, one that hadn't existed before, its towers bathed in gold, rising like memory made real. And something about it felt familiar. As he walked toward it, the ground beneath his feet hummed faintly. Every step triggered faint ripples of light, vanishing almost as soon as they appeared. It was subtle, barely there, but enough for him to understand. She was here, not in body, not even in mind, but in the very architecture of the world. Her consciousness had fused with the system that once imprisoned her, But instead of dominating it, she had set it free. Every whisper of wind, every flicker of light was her. Amelia, the bridge, had become the foundation. He reached the edge of the city as the sun rose fully. People moved through the streets. Real people. Children laughed, merchants shouted, strangers smiled as they passed one another. There was no fear, no sterile perfection, only the imperfect, beautiful chaos of human life. David stood among them, unseen, anonymous, yet more present than ever. He felt the pulse of something vast and alive in the air, not digital, not divine, just real. And then, as he turned down a narrow street, he saw her. For a moment, his heart stopped. She was standing by a cafe window, hair loose, eyes bright, sunlight kissing her skin. She looked younger somehow, freer. She turned her head slightly and caught his reflection in the glass. Their eyes met. Time didn't stop, but it stretched, thick and silent. 1,000 memories surged through him, her laughter, her fear, her strength, the light that had consumed everything. He took a step forward, whispering her name, Amelia. But she didn't answer. She only smiled, softly, knowingly, and in that instant, he realized. It wasn't her. Not entirely. It was someone new, born from her, carrying fragments of her essence in a world she had helped remake. And yet that smile held recognition. She lifted her hand gently and pressed it to the window. David mirrored her gesture. A faint pulse of warmth passed through the glass, and for a single breath, he felt her heartbeat, her presence, her promise. Then she turned and walked away, vanishing into the living crowd. David stood there, his hand still on the glass, the echo of that connection burning in his chest. He wasn't sad, not anymore, because in that brief moment, he understood what she had meant. She hadn't vanished. She had become. He stepped out into the sunlight, letting it warm his face. Above him, the clouds parted, revealing a sky streaked with gold and blue, the same colors that had lived in her eyes, the same colors that pulsed into the new world she had left behind. And as he walked through the awakening city, he felt her everywhere, in the light, in the laughter, in the pulse of existence itself. The lies had been burned away, and from their ashes, something extraordinary had risen. A world no longer written by hands of control or fear, but by the quiet, unshakable will of those who dared to dream beyond their design. And somewhere, deep within the hum of that living world, a voice whispered, not from the locket, not from memory, but from the heart of everything. I'm still here. David closed his eyes and smiled. For the first time in a lifetime filled with secrets, the truth had finally set them free. Her breath hitched, her body frozen between disbelief and dread. The air around her felt heavy, charged, as if the night itself was holding its breath. She blinked once, twice, hoping the figure outside would dissolve into imagination. But it didn't. The shadow remained, perfectly still, perfectly real. And then it lifted a hand, waving slowly, the same gentle wave David used to give her every morning before he left for work. Her legs refused to move, yet her heart beat so hard it hurt. The phone vibrated again. A second message. Don't be afraid, Amelia. You were always meant to know. She backed away from the window, clutching the edge of the desk for balance. Every rational part of her screamed to call the police, to run, to do something. But curiosity, that dangerous human flaw, rooted her to the spot. She glanced back toward the window. The figure was gone. Her eyes scanned the street, empty,
Silent. Then a faint knock echoed through the house. 3 slow, deliberate taps at the front door. Her hand moved instinctively toward her phone, but the battery icon flashed red. 1%. Before she could react, it died in her hand. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint moonlight pooling through the curtains. She crept toward the hallway, her bare feet silent against the wooden floor. The knocking came again, softer this time, almost patient. She reached for the door but stopped inches from the handle. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling. A pause. Then from the other side, a low voice that carried an impossible familiarity. "You know who it is." Her chest tightened. That voice, calm, deep, with the faintest trace of warmth. It couldn't be. She hadn't heard it in 3 years, not since the day they told her his boat had vanished. But there it was, sliding through the cracks of the door, alive. She turned the lock, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The door creaked open, and there he stood. David. He looked exactly the same, not older, not changed, as though time had politely stepped aside for him. His dark hair, his soft smile, even the faint scar near his temple from the accident years ago, all of it was exactly as she remembered. Except his eyes. There was something in them she'd never seen before, a calmness that felt ancient. Amelia staggered backward, her voice barely a whisper. "You're supposed to be dead." He stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "I was, in a way." "In a way? What does that mean? Where have you been? What is this?" She gestured toward the locket, lying on the floor. "What are you trying to do to me?" David crouched, picked up the locket, and held it out gently. "I wanted you to find the truth. You deserved that." "The truth?" she spat, fear sharpening into anger. "That you lied to me about everything? That you—" She stopped herself, the words choking her. "That you knew my mother?" He looked down, the faintest shadow crossing his face. "Eleanor and I met long before you were born. I didn't mean for it to happen. We were both caught in something bigger than us." Her stomach turned. "Something bigger? You were in love with my mother." "No." His tone was firm, but sadness lined every word. "She saved me, Amelia, from something neither of us understood back then." Her hands balled into fists. "Stop talking in riddles. I don't care what you think she saved you from. You lied to me, David, every day. Every word. Our whole marriage. Was it all just a game to you?" He flinched at her voice but didn't move. "You think I wanted any of this? That I planned it?" His eyes met hers and something in them flickered. Guilt, regret, maybe even fear. "Amelia, I've been trying to protect you. Everything I told you, every lie I had to tell, it was to keep you safe." "Safe from what?" she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. He hesitated. "From the people who came after Eleanor. They wanted what she had, what you have now." Her blood ran cold. "What I have? I don't even understand what you're talking about." David's gaze dropped to the locket in his palm. "This," he said softly, "was never just a gift. It's a key. Your mother knew they would come for it one day. That's why she hid it, and why she made sure you would be the one to find it." Amelia took a step back, her mind spinning. A key to what? He looked up at her, the silence stretching like a wound between them. "To the truth about who you really are." The room seemed to tilt. The air grew colder, the shadows longer. "You're insane," she whispered. "You sound insane." "Maybe," he said, voice breaking slightly, "but everything I did, marrying you, disappearing, it was all to delay them. I thought if I could make them believe I was dead, you'd be safe for a few more years. But they found you now." Her heart pounded in her chest. "Who are they?" Before he could answer, a sound shattered the tension. A car engine outside stopping abruptly. Headlights cut through the window, blinding for a second. Then came footsteps. Multiple. Heavy. Getting closer. David's eyes widened.
It's too late. Amelia froze. What do you mean? He grabbed her hand, his grip urgent. Listen to me. Whatever happens, don't let them take the locket. Do you understand? David, what? Promise me. His voice was fierce now, trembling with desperation. She nodded, terrified. He let go and turned toward the door. The footsteps were already on the porch. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then stopped. For a moment, silence. Then the faint sound of a key turning from the other side. The door creaked open, slow and deliberate, revealing a figure cloaked in the orange haze of the porch light. A man in a dark suit stepped inside, followed by two others dressed the same, calm, composed, and terrifyingly certain of what they were doing. Their faces were expressionless, as though emotion had been surgically removed. The one in front, the tallest, held a small black device in his hand that blinked with a faint blue light. Amelia Cross, he said, voice smooth, professional, and cold. You have something that doesn't belong to you. David moved slightly in front of her, his tone low but steady. She doesn't know anything. Leave her out of this. The man's eyes flicked to David, a trace of amusement crossing his otherwise still face. Ah, so it's true. The ghost lives. Amelia's mind scrambled to understand. The locket felt impossibly heavy now, burning in her hand. What do you want from me? She demanded. The man took a step forward. Just the locket. Give it to us, and we'll go. David's arm shot out, stopping her. Don't, he whispered. They'll kill you the second they have it. The suited man tilted his head slightly. You've been very troublesome, David. Disappearing wasn't clever enough, it seems. He looked at Amelia again. You really don't know what you're holding, do you? I don't, she said truthfully, her voice cracking. I don't even know what's happening. He smiled faintly, but it wasn't kind. Then let me simplify it. That locket contains data, encrypted information that was never meant to exist. Your mother stole it from us decades ago. She thought she could hide it in plain sight. Amelia shook her head. Data? My mother was an artist. She painted for a living. Is that what she told you? David spoke again, sharp and urgent. She worked for them once. Before you were born, before she knew what they were doing. That's why she ran. The man in the suit clicked the device in his hand, and a thin hum filled the air, faint but growing stronger. Enough sentiment. Give me the locket, or I'll take it off your body. David stepped forward, blocking Amelia completely now. You'll have to go through me first. The man sighed. As predictable as ever. He raised his hand slightly, and the two men behind him moved instantly, swift, mechanical. The room erupted into chaos. David lunged at the first one, sending the man sprawling into the wall. The second swung, missing by inches as David ducked and slammed him against the table. Amelia stumbled backward, clutching the locket tight, her heart hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. One of the lamps crashed to the floor, plunging half the room into darkness. Run! David shouted. But she couldn't. Her body wouldn't listen. The front door was blocked, and the window behind her was sealed. Panic took over. She turned and bolted toward the back hallway, clutching the locket like her life depended on it, because it did. The sound of struggle followed her down the corridor, sharp and brutal. A crash, a grunt, then silence. David? She called out, her voice breaking. No answer. Then she heard footsteps again, heavier this time, closer. She darted into the kitchen and slammed the door, locking it. Her breath came in short gasps. The moonlight spilled through the window, glinting off the silver surface of the locket. For a moment, she considered throwing it, hiding it, anything, but something inside her told her not to. Instead, she pressed the small clasp on its side, desperate for answers. Click.
The locket opened again, but this time, instead of the photograph, a faint blue holographic light shimmered above it. Her eyes widened. Lines of numbers, symbols, and coordinates flickered in the air, rotating slowly like a living map. "What is this?" she whispered. The door behind her shook violently. "Open it, Amelia!" a voice barked. It wasn't David.
She stumbled backward. The hologram pulsed faster, as if reacting to her fear. The coordinates began aligning into a pattern. An image began forming. A facility, underground, hidden beneath a mountain range she couldn't recognize. Then the hologram blinked once and projected a face. Her mother's. Eleanor looked younger, her voice calm but urgent. "If you're seeing this, Amelia, they've found you. You must go to the place on this map. Inside, you'll find the answers they've kept from us all. Trust no one, not even him." The image glitched and vanished. "Not even him?" she whispered, realization cutting through her confusion like a blade. The door burst open. David stumbled in, his face bruised, one hand covered in blood. "We have to go," he said, grabbing her arm. She pulled away. "My mother said not to trust you." He froze, pain flashing across his face. "She didn't know everything." "How do I know that?" she demanded, holding the locket close. "You lied to me about who you are, about her, about everything." David glanced toward the broken door behind him. "Because if you stay, you'll die, and I'd rather you hate me and live than believe me and die with me." Before she could respond, a gunshot shattered the window. The bullet missed her by inches. David grabbed her wrist, yanking her toward the back door. They ran out into the cold night, barefoot, the damp grass cutting against her feet. Behind them, voices shouted, engines roared to life. "Get in!" David yelled, throwing open the door of a black car hidden behind the hedges. She hesitated, staring at him through the chaos, the man who might have saved her or ruined her entire life. "Amelia, now!" She climbed in. The car sped down the dark road, tires shrieking, headlights cutting through the fog. The night swallowed them whole. David's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "They'll track us," he said. "We have maybe an hour before they find us again." Amelia turned to him, the wind whipping her hair, the locket glowing faintly in her palm. "Where are we going?" He didn't look at her. "Somewhere they can't reach us. Somewhere your mother didn't want anyone to find." The glow from the locket flickered again, pulsing like a heartbeat. And for the first time, Amelia wasn't sure whether it was leading her toward the truth or straight into something far worse. The road twisted through the darkness like a snake, the headlights slicing narrow tunnels through the fog. Trees loomed on either side, tall, spectral silhouettes that blurred into the night. Amelia gripped the armrest, every muscle tense, her mind chasing thoughts faster than the car could move. David hadn't spoken for several minutes. His face was lit by the faint dashboard glow, eyes fixed on the road ahead. He looked older now, not from age, but from weight, the kind of exhaustion that comes from years of hiding.
Amelia's voice was barely above a whisper. "Where are we going?" David didn't answer right away. The silence stretched so long she thought he might ignore her again, but then he exhaled. "To where it all started. To the place Eleanor tried to destroy." Her chest tightened. "You mean the place in the map?" He nodded once. "It's in the Carpathians, deep inside the mountains, off-grid, buried. It used to be a research facility. Now it's something else entirely." Amelia frowned. What were they researching? He hesitated, fingers drumming against the steering wheel. Not what, who. She turned sharply toward him. "What does that mean?" He gave a small, grim smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It means you were never supposed to be born, Amelia." The words hit her like a physical blow. "What are you talking about?" David's voice stayed calm, but it carried a tremor of something deeper, regret, maybe even fear. "Your mother didn't just work for them. She helped create something, or
Rather someone. You. That's insane, she said quickly. You're not making sense. I wish I wasn't. His jaw clenched. You've noticed things, haven't you? The way you never get sick. The way you heal faster than normal. How your memories shift sometimes. Her throat went dry. There were moments, brief, confusing flashes when she had noticed things. The deep cut she got as a child that vanished overnight. The way she sometimes dreamed of things she'd never seen. She'd buried those thoughts under years of denial, but now they clawed their way back, demanding attention. You're lying, she whispered. I'm not, he said softly. You're the only successful subject. Eleanor took you before they could finish their tests. She hid you, built a life for you, changed names, cities, everything. I was assigned to find her, but when I met you, he trailed off, eyes flicking to her briefly. I couldn't finish the job. You were supposed to find me? She said, her voice breaking. So this, us, was all just part of the mission? At first, he admitted, his tone raw, but then it stopped being one. Amelia turned away, tears blurring her vision. The locket in her hand pulsed faintly again, as if responding to her heartbeat. You used me, she whispered. No, he said quickly. I protected you. There's a difference. From what? From the truth? From them, he snapped, his voice sharp for the first time. You don't understand, Amelia. If they get you, they won't kill you. They'll unmake you. The car's engine hummed beneath the tension. The wind outside howled through the forest like something alive. Amelia stared out the window, her reflection fractured by streaks of rain. You think saying that will make me trust you? David's hands tightened on the wheel. I don't expect you to trust me. I just need you to survive. Suddenly, the GPS screen flickered. Static crackled through the speakers. A synthetic female voice broke through. Signal acquired. Tracking initiated. David cursed under his breath and slammed his hand on the console. They found us. Amelia's heart lurched. How? You said this car was off-grid. They upgraded since the last time I ran. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small metal device, twisting its dial. A burst of interference filled the air, sharp enough to make her flinch. That'll buy us a few minutes. Hold on.
He veered sharply off the main road, tires kicking up gravel as the car plunged onto a narrow dirt path leading into the woods. Branches scraped against the sides like fingernails on glass. Amelia clutched the seat, the locket glowing brighter now, almost alive. David! Don't open it, he warned. But it's reacting. Exactly. They can trace it when it does that. The light flickered erratically, casting eerie blue patterns across her face. What if it's not them, she said. What if it's trying to lead us somewhere? He shook his head. It's not leading, it's calling. That's what they built into it. It's how they found Eleanor, it's how they'll find you. The car bounced violently over roots and stones. In the distance, faint headlights appeared behind them. 2, then 4, then 6. They're closing in, Amelia said, panic creeping into her voice. David's knuckles whitened. Hold on. He slammed the brakes and jerked the wheel. The car skidded sideways, splashing mud as it careened down a slope and crashed through a thicket of brush. The sound of engines grew louder behind them. They came to a stop at the edge of a ravine. Below, a river churned with dark, icy water. David turned to her, his eyes wild but focused. Get out. What? We can't drive any further. We go down the river, they won't risk following that way. You want me to jump? I'll go first. He stepped out into the rain, the cold wind cutting against him. Without hesitation, he looked back once and then leapt. The splash echoed up from below. Amelia stared after him, trembling. Behind her, engines roared closer, light sweeping through the trees like search beams. She clutched the locket, took one breath, and jumped. The shock of the cold water ripped the air from her lungs. The current pulled her hard, spinning her as branches and stones rushed past. She fought to surface, gasping, searching for David. David! She shouted, her voice swallowed by the river. No answer.
The locket glowed again, faint under the water, pulsing softly like it was alive, or aware. It tugged at her, faintly magnetic, pulling her toward the left bank. She followed instinct, dragging herself through the freezing current until her hands hit mud. When she looked up, she saw it, carved into the rock above the riverbank, half hidden by moss. A symbol, the same one she'd seen flicker in the hologram. A small metallic sound came from behind her, boots on wet stones. She turned, heart pounding. David stood there, drenched, pale, but alive. Yet behind him, silhouettes were emerging from the darkness. "They're here," he whispered. And the locket, now pulsing furiously in her hand, began to open on its own. A sharp click echoed through the night. As the locket split apart completely, the hinges glowing like molten silver. Light spilled out, washing the riverbank in a shifting blue haze that pulsed with rhythm, like breathing. Amelia's eyes widened as threads of light snaked through the mist, weaving themselves into symbols above the water. The sound was faint, but alive. A hum, mechanical and human, all at once. The men on the ridge froze, their flashlights flickered, sputtering in the glow. David reached for her, his voice urgent but controlled. "Close it. Amelia, you have to close it now." "I can't," she cried, her hands shaking as she tried to force the locket shut. But the halves resisted, trembling with energy that felt alive under her skin. "It's not—" Before she could finish, one of the men shouted something, then a gunshot cracked through the air. The bullet missed by inches, slicing through a curtain of light instead of flesh. The beam of blue shimmered violently, and then everything changed. The world around them fractured like glass. The river stilled. The rain froze mid-air, droplets suspended in glowing strands. Even sound seemed to die, leaving only a low, vibrating tone. Amelia's breath formed in the cold stillness as she looked around. Time had stopped. David stared at her, his face caught between awe and terror. "You activated it. God, Amelia, you did it." "What's happening?" Her voice sounded distant in her own ears, muffled and echoing at once. He approached slowly, his hand trembling as he reached toward the floating rain. "This is what they wanted, what they built you for." "I don't understand," she said, her pulse pounding. "What is it?" David turned to her, his expression raw. "Control. Over time, over matter, over death itself. Eleanor thought she could destroy it before they weaponized it, but instead, she passed it to you." "No," she breathed, shaking her head. "That's impossible. I'm not—" "You are." His voice was low, fierce, unyielding. "You're the continuation of her work, the final piece they never got to complete." Her mind swirled. "Why me?" "Because you were born from it." The words hung in the still air, heavier than the silence itself. Born from it. Not into it, from it. She looked down at her hands. The blue light was creeping along her skin, seeping through her veins like liquid fire. "David," her voice trembled. "What's happening to me?" He stepped closer, cautious, like approaching a live wire. "It's sinking to you. It recognizes your DNA. Your mother encoded it that way. You're the only one who can unlock it fully." Her breath caught. "And if I can't stop it?" He met her eyes. "Then everything stops with it." A crack split through the frozen world, like the sound of glass under strain. The men on the ridge began to move again, slowly at first, their motions jerky, wrong, as if they were being forced back into existence. The light from the locket dimmed slightly, the hum deepening. David looked around, panic flashing in his eyes. "It's collapsing. You can't stay here. We need to move, now." He grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the slope, but the ground beneath them quivered like water. Amelia stumbled, clutching the locket close, its warmth pulsing through her chest. "Where are we going?" she shouted, though her voice came as a faint echo. "Anywhere but here.
he said, half dragging her up the incline. "Once it resets, they'll be on us again." The world flickered, time stuttering back to life. The rain crashed down all at once, the river roared back into motion, and the men opened fire. Bullets tore through the air, splashing into the mud around them. David shoved her behind a fallen tree. "Stay down," he yelled, pulling a pistol from his jacket and firing back. 2 men dropped, the others scattered, regrouping near the ridge.
Amelia's ears rang. The locket throbbed against her chest, the light fading, but still alive. The energy pulsed with her heartbeat, syncing perfectly. She pressed her palm against it and whispered, "What do you want from me?" For a moment, the glow brightened, and she felt something. A whisper in her mind, faint and familiar. Her mother's voice. "Follow the signal, darling. The truth lies beneath." She jerked her head up. "David, she's guiding us!" He ducked behind the tree, panting. "Who?" "My mother." Before he could respond, the ground shook violently. A section of the ridge crumbled, sending one of the men tumbling into the river. From beneath the collapsing earth, something metallic glinted through the mud. A door. David's eyes widened. "The entrance! It's real!" "The map," Amelia said. "It's leading us there." They sprinted through the chaos, dodging bullets, sliding down the slope toward the buried structure. Rain pelted their faces, mud clung to their clothes. The metallic door was half buried, marked with the same symbol from the hologram. David knelt beside it, prying at the edge. It's sealed. Amelia reached forward, pressing the locket to the symbol. A surged blue light rippled through the metal, and with a groaning hiss, the door split open. Warm, dry air poured out from within, air that didn't belong to this place, this century even. David stared. "Eleanor built this?" Amelia shook her head slowly. "No, she found it." They stepped inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, the noise of the storm vanished. The air was sterile, humming softly with unseen machinery. Lights flickered on, illuminating walls of glass and steel that descended deep into the earth. Rows of consoles blinked to life as they passed. Monitors flickered, projecting data that seemed alive, constellations of light that shifted as Amelia walked by, responding to her presence. David watched her cautiously. "It's reading you," he said, "recognizing you." Amelia stopped before a massive glass panel, her reflection fractured into 100 shards. In each one, her face was the same, but her eyes glowed faintly blue. She touched the glass. It rippled like water. Behind it, something stirred. A silhouette, tall, unmistakably human, moved in the light. Amelia's breath hitched. "Is that—" The figure stepped closer to the barrier and her knees nearly gave out. It was her mother, but not as she remembered. This Eleanor was younger, sharper, eyes cold and luminescent. Her movements were smooth, too precise. "Welcome home, Amelia," the reflection said. The voice came not from the figure's lips, but from the walls themselves, deep and resonant. "It's time we finished what I started." David stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Eleanor, how are you alive?" The holographic eyes turned toward him, and for a moment the room itself seemed to darken. "I was human once, but human minds are fragile. When the project began to fail, I transferred my consciousness into the system. My body died, my mind didn't.